two students from North Dakota, and we know that there's an important election coming up this November.
That's why we sat down with Secretary of State candidate Josh Boschee to ask about what the Secretary of State is and why this election is important. So Josh, what does the Secretary of State do?
Well, the Secretary of State has some primary functions, but it's really just kind of an administrative office. The primary functions people really know about are helping with elections throughout the state, but also helping businesses get registered and re-registered every year. And in North Dakota right now, it's a slow process. It generally takes 26 days to get a business started, whereas if you go 30 other states, it only takes 1 day because we don't do it online. So that's the main reason I'm running, is to modernize the office and make sure we use technology to make things easier for our businesses and nonprofits throughout the state.
If you could talk to your 18-year-old self as a new voter, what would you say to yourself if you were voting for the first time in an election?
If I were to be able to go back and talk to my 18-year-old self,
Yes.
I would certainly say, definitely plan to vote, learn how to vote in your county or state, but even more importantly, take some time to get to understand the candidates. I think, as an 18-year-old, I was a freshman in college, so I was busy with my classwork, but I went and voted, but I really didn't know who I was voting for. I walked into the voting booth and actually intended to vote for one presidential candidate because he was a third party, but voted for a different candidate because I was, that's who my grandma's going to vote for, and that's how I made that decision. So certainly, especially with access to information and websites and social media, there's a great way to get to know candidates and the issues that are on the ballot. I think that's something folks don't understand all the time. It's not always the policy makers, but as a voter, you get to enact policy.
Okay, to spice things up, I'm going to ask you a fun question in the mix. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think the best piece of advice, and it's something that I repeat over and over to people all the time. I was a child and I played piano, like a lot of kids. And when I decided to stop playing piano, my mom said, "You're going to regret if you don't continue playing piano." And to this day, anytime I see a piano or someone playing the piano, I think to myself, I really wish I could do that.
So going back to a more political question, could you go into more detail of why you're running for Secretary of State in North Dakota?
I'm running for Secretary of State because I think it's time to modernize the office and bring it into the 21st century. I'm a realtor here in town, small business owner, also serve in the state legislature and the House Industry and Business and Labor Committee. And in all those instances, I've seen where I think we've failed North Dakotans. The Secretary of State's office, you can't do much of the work online. It slows down the process for our business owners, but even voter education and making sure that voting is accessible and young people and old people and everyone in between knows how to vote and how to prepare to vote.
Another fun question. Okay, what was your dream job as a kid?
I always wanted to be a veterinarian. My uncles are veterinarians, and I grew up in Minot, but every summer we'd get to come to Fargo here and observe my uncle for a couple days. So watch procedures, help clean cages, play with the animals, and so I knew I liked to help and definitely loved our pets, so thought I'd be a veterinarian.
So what makes you qualified to be Secretary of State of North Dakota?
Well, I think I'm qualified to be Secretary of State based on being a small business owner, being a young leader in our community, as well as a legislator. So I understand the importance of the separation of powers between the executive and the legislative branch. That my job as Secretary of State will be to implement the laws that are passed by the legislature, but also I'm connected to the business community. I'm engaged here in Fargo-Moorhead and throughout the state with the Association of Realtors, the Chambers of Commerce, and a number of other nonprofit groups. So I feel I bring that well-connected, fresh perspective to the office.
Now, to wrap things up, tell us, why does this election in November matter?
Well, I think every election matters. Our country was founded on direct democracy and the ability for us as citizens to make decisions in who represents us and the policies they support or oppose. But this election specifically, I think is really important. We're coming at a time where things are really polarized. People are really concerned, and it's not about one party or the other. It's about our values as a country and as a state. And so with your generation, millennials, they make up the largest population of the country now, but you'll vote at the lowest percentage of voters. And because of that, the concerns you have for the next 10, 20 years as a young person may not be addressed by policymakers. So if we can get your peers out to vote more and talking to the policymakers about the issues important to them, we'll start seeing that shift, especially with the political power your generation has based on the peer numbers you have throughout this country.
The midterm elections will be taking place on Tuesday, November 6th, and there are a couple ways you can vote. First, you can vote in person at your district's polling station. All you need to do is bring a valid form of ID, such as a driver's license, state ID, tribal ID, or long-term care certificate. You can find your polling station by going to vote.nd.gov.
If you can't make it to the polls on election day, you can vote with an absentee ballot. Head to vote.nd.gov, fill out your information, and a ballot will be sent to your address. Simply fill it out, put a stamp on it, and mail it back.
Also, even if you're not 18 right now, as long as you're 18 years old on or by November 6th, you're still eligible to vote.
Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you vote for Josh Boschee on November 6th.